Got a nice little setup here. I got 3 posts that we're going to be throwing the club towards. So the first one I'm going to do is a toss toward our first post here, which is about maybe 15 yards tops. The students that I bring out onto the range, or I've brought out recently because we finally got some, we're on grass and we can throw the club out here and we're not throwing into snow, is when the student is not focused on where they want to release the club, it goes everywhere. It can go, most of the time it just goes over your shoulder. So you're hanging on, you don't know when to let go. It's very, very difficult to coordinate this kind of chaos. If you look at on YouTube, the dual pendulum chaos theory, you'll see what I mean, because we're dealing with a 2 pendulum swing here. So I'm going towards that pole, toward the pole, toward the pole, toward the pole. Excellent. So the distance I just threw my club was very much in line with that pole, and I just tossed that a little to the right side. Make sure you also get some nice old clubs with very slippery grips. When you have very tacky grips, they don't throw as well, okay? So make sure you got some nice slippery ones. So I'm going to do one more to that short distance pole right here. I'm going to go slightly a little higher up, like a third up the pole. I picked a nice branch into that pine tree right behind the pole. Right on that branch. Right on that branch. Right on that branch. Right on. So notice how it went a little farther, and I'm going, okay, that went a little higher, had a little more velocity, but I wasn't thinking about what I was going to do with my body to get it there. I was just keeping that branch in my mind, that particular part of the branch. So now if I want to go a little farther, we're going to go to the next pole. I'm going to go midway up that pole. So up the pole, there's a seam in the net right there that I got my eye on. Right in there. Right in that seam. Oh, look at that. Just below the seam by maybe 3 feet. Perfect throw. And you notice again, more velocity. So if I go even farther than that, we're going to go to the next pole. And we're going to take this right between the pole and that yellow sleeve right there. There's a pine tree right behind there. So we're going to go farther. Now I'm feeling the need to gather farther into my backswing and give myself more range of motion. So, yeah, now I'll be able to reach that. Woo! That was fun. So just a hair left. I'm going to reload that again. Distance was phenomenal. So right between the pole and that cable. Super. Look at that. Just on the left side of that cable. Isn't that fun? So notice how much farther that went. And you'll see if we put this, when you see this, you want to freeze frame it. Matt, can we do some slow motion with that as well? Okay, perfect. So what we're going to do is we're going to put this on slow motion on those 3 different distances for you. And you'll notice how my body gets more aggressive with the ground. But I'm not thinking about that. I'm thinking about that part that I'm trying to throw the club into, okay? So let's have a look. Wasn't that a blast? You guys are going to have so much fun, and gals are going to have so much fun throwing the club. And make sure you have 3 very distinct distances that you can throw it to. Something is very easy, something that's a little farther, and then something that you feel like you have to reach in for a little assertiveness, okay? And what you're going to find too, going back to the ball and a string when I made that reference, you'll notice that when you have a particular ball and a string and you want to go a very specific distance, it's very easy to fine-tune the distance that you want to hit it into or throw it into because we're gravity geniuses, right? So if I'm throwing this ball towards you or twirling this ball towards you, I know that this wouldn't make it to the camera. I'm basically at my stall point right now, and that's going to fall about halfway to 2/3 of the way over. This feels like complete overkill. Feels like, I'm going to knock the camera over. Versus, yeah, that's about right now. Feels like I can take this and put it right into the lens of the camera, okay? So if I'm going to my keep out sign, I'm going to go to the lower one. There it is. And I want to go over the beware of dogs sign a little farther out there. So notice I have a very specific distance that I want to release that ball on a string. Same thing with what we did out there on the range. So I'm going to pretend I'm throwing my club. Now if I throw my club and I don't let it go, this was me throwing the club. If you remember in slow motion, when you saw me throwing that club, my hands would basically stop here and the energy would go from my hands into the club and out toward that particular post. Whereas here, if I throw it and I don't let it go, the club can't go that way anymore, so it snaps my right hand over my left hand and comes back towards me. So I'm throwing the club into a little snap. So the shorter post would feel like a very soft snap. So I'm just throwing it into a soft snap. So right here, how far is that ball going to go with a 7-iron with that soft snap? So we'll have a look on flight scope, see how far that goes. Now I'm going to go a little farther to the next post. So I'm going to throw it. I'm going to imagine myself on the range here. I'm going to do that little draw here, play the ball back in my stance, going to go right edge of that. So I'm throwing right edge of my intermediate point into that second post high up toward that seam. Okay. So that went a little farther. So now I'm going to throw it with more assertiveness out into that last post between the cable. And that basically that throw was about 80 yards out there. So I'm going to throw that with a little bit more zip. So same spot, right edge, throw it out there farther. So I'm throwing it out there with more assertiveness. So let's have a look on flight scope, see what that looks like. Now this is fun. This is fun having a flight scope unit like this because you'll not only see the differences in club head speed, in carry, in roll, and you'll see the difference in the launch angle. You'll see a difference in the spin rate. So let's have a look at the first shot. You can see them right here. But if I go to the first particular swing, there it is. So I'm playing a soft little draw. I'm setting up for a draw on all three. And you can see my club speed in miles per hour was 61 miles an hour. My carry distance on it was 86. Ball speed was 78. And if we look at some spin rate here, it says spin rate. It's sometimes we can see what the machine can get a little off, but 6,600 as far as the spin rate on that. So if we go to the second shot, you'll notice I threw it to the second post. I was playing my draw, so I'm starting the ball a little right of target here. It stayed a little right on that one. My club speed went up to 75 miles an hour, and all of a sudden my carry is 136. And the ball speed is now over 100 miles an hour. So you look at the spin rate here, it says a little bit less. So I think that the spin rate on the first one was an anomaly, so I wouldn't pay attention to that. And then finally, I'm throwing the club to that final post, and now the spin rate is taking that ball up there and with the club head speed, and you notice now it's completing the draw a little more, so it's got a little bit more of that side spin as well. So now we're looking at 192 carry. Club head speed is almost 100 miles an hour now, and my ball, my ball speed is at 126. So, 192 on a 7-iron, we'll take that. That's some very good speed, and that little range session, and I did that in the exact same sequence. I came and did my shots in here after I threw the club on the range, and it really made a big difference. So I know that this two pendulum throwing of the club is really going to pay big dividends for you. Just make sure that you keep your target in mind and that you start it nice and gradual. And like I said, get some old clubs. Go to that $5 barrel of clubs that you see at your local shop with some nice slick grips, and have a great time.